Friends, before we dive into the podcast, Clutter Free Academy is now listener supported. That means that all the bills get paid because of listeners like you. So, if Clutter Free Academy has been helpful to you, we would love for you to partner with us. All you have to do is go to Kathi, that's Kathi /link.coffee. That's Kathi /link.coffee. Or you can go to our podcast page and there's a link there that you can click. And if this is a good time in your life to be partnering with us, great. If not, hey, I just want to say thank you for listening. We appreciate everybody who listens, who shares, who financially supports. All of you make this podcast happen. Okay, on with the show. Well, hey friends, welcome to Clutter Free Academy, where our goal is to help you take small, doable steps to live every day with less clutter and more life. And guys, I don't know where you are in your life stage, but one thing that is as sure as death and taxes is that at some point you're probably going to have to clean out your parents' home. Whether it's to help them move, whether it's because they need to make a transition in their life, whether, sadly, because of losing a parent. Uh, all of this can be emotionally fraught, overwhelming, and a lot of people don't know where to start. We have people that are part of our large group, Clutter Free Academy, our free group on Facebook, who have been paying the mortgage on their parents' home for over a decade because they're just too overwhelmed. And guys, we understand, but I have somebody here who's going to make this at least give us some places to start. Guys, this is my friend. Her name is Ruthie Gray, and she is all about that sandwich generation that so many of us are in. We're still doing things to help and love and support our kids, but we also have aging parents that we need to make sure that they're well taken care of. And here we are, the baloney stuck in between. And so, Ruthie, welcome to Clutter Free Academy. We're so glad to have you on the program.
Thank you, Kathy. This is a great topic to talk about.
Yeah, right. I've done this in small portions. I did clean out my family's childhood home so that my parents could move to a more affordable place in their retirement. And I have to tell you, that was weeks of work. It was so, so much. And right now we are not looking at that, but I will tell you, Roger and I have an eye towards when my mom needs to make a transition. And so,
Mhm.
we go every week and we try to do some things. We try to help out around there, but also there's the rub of wanting to respect our parents and not push them too much. So, Ruthie, this is just a topic that so many of our listeners are dealing with right now or are going to be really soon. What got you thinking about the challenges of decluttering a parent's home?
Well, it was my parents' simultaneous health crisis back when I was
Um,
45 years old.
mm,
They were late 60s, early 70s, and just everything fell apart. And I'm an only child, so I was thrown into
oh,
caregiving right away.
yeah.
And they lived in a 2,400 square foot, 100-year-old farmhouse
Wow.
and that they could no longer navigate in. And so
Mm,
that's what got us started thinking we're gonna have to have them in a safer living environment.
yeah. And so that wasn't just a location for your parents' decision, it was a downsizing decision, all that goes into that.
Mhm.
And you weren't just dealing with stuff. You were dealing with, I'm sure, a lifetime of memories. And I mean, you had the double whammy of being an only child and the oldest daughter. I mean, you're not older than anybody else, but I mean that was your default role. There was
Mhm.
nobody else to pass this off to. So how do you navigate the emotional side of this process for yourself and for your family?
Yeah, it was heavy. It was
Mhm.
heavy on all sides because we were all trying to catch up with this. At first, I was trying to heal them, and just get them well so we could all
Yeah.
go on as normal. But I found out right away after emergency that this was it. Um, God actually said, "This is the plan now." So,
Oh,
navigating
wow.
that guilt, and then, feeling sorry for them and their grief and carrying their, all of that. It was a gradual process from start to finish, relocating. What we actually did was built a 2,400 square foot apartment on to our home.
So not
But
only
it
are
was
you downsizing and decluttering, you're also building. Holy cow.
yes, yes.
Oh my goodness.
And I was still raising kids,
Oh my goodness.
homeschooling. It was nuts.
Just wild. So, uh, what were some of the overwhelming feelings for you? Was there, you know, I mean, I have to imagine that, there was some feelings of, my parents don't I how let me ask this. How resistant were your parents to getting rid of stuff?
Oh, 100% resistant.
Mm,
And the good news is it was a 4-year process between, s you know, realizing this is it, trying to, just get into the rhythm of doctor's visits and specialists and all that,
yeah,
and then starting to have that conversation. And so, it luckily for us, we had the time to work with because I've been caregiving for 16 years now. My dad has
yeah.
passed. He passed after 10 years, but, um, we did have some time to work with it. Some people don't.
Yeah. Yeah, here's my other question because that really is your specialty, working, with caregiving between, your parents and also, the rest of your life. What is one piece of advice that you have learned in your caregiving journey about where to start? What's a practical step someone should take when they realize it's time to help a parent downsize or declutter, or maybe even before you realize that? Is there
Uh-huh.
anything we should be thinking about right now?
I think that everyone needs to have a conversation. I think the conversation is where you start.
Okay.
And I wished that I had paid more attention to what they were telling me about their health and things like that,
Mm,
So it starts with a conversation. You can't just say, well, we're going to have to put you in a home now, so we're gonna downsize. It's
right.
gotta start with a lot of gentleness and knowing, yeah, they're gonna be resistant. It's gonna take time. Just like you're probably resistant to this new way of life and having
Yeah.
to fit all of this in too when maybe you're like me and you just didn't expect it.
Oh, absolutely. It feels overwhelming to think about the big shifts that are coming. And so I think you're right. Having those conversations when you're not in the midst of the crisis is absolutely key.
Mhm.
Okay. So uh so it's conversations, setting expectations. Do you start to declutter while they're healthy if you know that this is I mean, obviously, as our parents age, we do have to make these choices. So, do you find it valuable, or do you think it's better to wait and kind of do everything at once while you're in that mode?
I think you can't really say one thing or another just
Okay.
because everyone's situation is different and parents
Mhm.
age differently. So, like for us, what really helped, and if you could do this at all, it's really great. We sat down with their financial advisor. So if you could sit down with a third
Oh,
party, and
yeah.
kind of map out what is the plan now? What can we do? Now, my husband is the idea guy. So he always
Mhm.
is the visionary. So he was like, I can design this apartment. We could do this. It would be, and so how much money do you guys have? We can pitch this. So, if you can have a third party and start having a conversation, that paves the way to, okay, this is the goal over here, 2,400 square feet to 1,200.
Yeah.
Everything's not going to fit. So, what do we want to start with? What must go with us?
Yeah, and what do you do when parents are like, no, I want to take it all with me?"
Hmm.
Because as much as that's not practical, it can also really be a a safety issue, right?
Hmm. Yes, it is. It is a safety issue. Um, Sometimes you just have to gently say, these my husband is more, he was better at being dogmatic than me, but in a kind way. Say, okay, these are going to go, these are the things that are going to go, these are not the things that can go, they cannot fit, but
Mhm.
here's what we can do to compromise. Like my parents had, I don't know, to them it was new, 10-year-old couch set. So there was a
Mhm.
smaller couch and a bigger couch. He said
Right.
the smaller couch can go, the bigger couch is not going to be able to go.
Yeah.
And then the other thing is, if you can, once you get them moved, and they see everything doesn't go, if you can do something with it after that so that they don't
Mhm.
come back and revisit it.
Right, right. So if it can be donated somewhere,
Mhm,
if it can live its next life, and that's not always possible, but I know people are often much more willing to let go of things. And I think, when you talk about your husband's the pragmatic one, facts are your friends when it comes
mhm,
to this situation, because if you can get a measuring tape out and say, "Hey, the big couch is not going to fit, but the small couch is going
mhm.
to really work
Yes.
for you." Does that mean that you both have some place to sit? Do we need to get a lazy boy? Like,
Mhm.
what is the next thing that we need to do? Also, say that they're moving into a place that has meals for them. Maybe they don't need to bring all their serving platters, or maybe, those could go to somebody in the family who's going to take over those hosting duties, et cetera, to be able to say, uh, life is going to look different, but we can still get together as a family. It may not be at your house anymore. I think about my mother-in-law who moved into an assisted living facility. She was super independent. She had her kitchen, but a lot of her meals were taken care of. So, and she wasn't going to be hosting Thanksgiving anymore.
Mhm,
It would have been
mhm.
three of us who could fit into her apartment. So facts are your friends in this situation. Uh, okay, we're going to take a quick break. And when we come back, I want to talk about the hard stuff. We're going to talk family heirlooms, photo albums, collections, the things that, may get you kicked out of the will, but it may be worth it. I don't know. We all have to have these discussions. We're going to take a quick break and come right back. Friends, are you receiving the Clutter Free newsletter? If not, this is where the conversation continues. We have things like tip sheets, we have recipes, we have really practical ideas to be able to take you from what you hear here on the podcast to the next step. So you will find the link right there in our show notes. We want you to be able to subscribe and be able to get the practical information you need to put these ideas into action. Okay, Ruthie, we're back. Okay, talking the hard stuff. I'm gonna rapid fire at you.
All right.
How do you have these conversations about family heirlooms?
Okay. So if you have siblings, then you do need to have a conversation about who gets what and do your best to
Mhm.
work together. Someone told me that I think they had like 6 or 7 siblings and they were trying to caregive their parents. They said, "You're lucky you don't have any siblings." And
Oh,
that did not
wow.
comfort me at all.
Right? Of
At
course
all. It
not.
was 0
We
comfort.
all think everybody else has the better circumstances, yeah, but I can understand what they were saying, that was not a great way to say it, but you don't have to fight with anybody else for the caregiving, like, you
Yes.
just know it's up to you and your parents and your
Yeah.
husband supporting you, but yeah, but with heirlooms and,
Mhm.
what one person considers an heirloom, somebody else considers something for the goodwill, and
Right.
so,
Right.
my
So that
mom did the whole Post-it note thing and, put either my name or my brother's name or one of the
uh-huh.
grandkids' names on it
I
to get
like that.
first dibs, you know?
Yes, if the parent can do that, that's great. If you can just kinda hand that over to the parent, who do you want to have what? That's a great idea. Of course, like my mom had tons of photo albums, so of course those are
Mhm.
all going to go with her. They, each of my kids, I have 4 kids, and each of them has a photo album because they're her
Mm,
only grandchildren. So there were things like that. But if you have parents that have grown up in the depression, everything is a priority,
right.
uh, and they really loved their stuff. And so um, they did sneak a few things in the house that were smaller items. They really weren't even stuff that's that sentimental, like a little table or whatever. But if it could fit, they were going to sneak it in there. But what we did was we were able to find, my dad called them pickers, a group that came and bought everything
Uh-huh.
that was left for one
Okay.
sum. And but they were, I won't say resentful, but they were sorrowful about their stuff still. My mom
Mm,
still names things that she didn't get, but there is so much still that is there. I think
right.
that sometimes we just have to listen to our parents. We
Yeah.
just have to
Yeah.
listen, let them vent, and just, there's not a lot you can say to your parent that is grieving about certain things that's going to make it
Absolutely.
better. You can't
Right.
just try to, you know, keep defending yourself. That doesn't work.
Yeah, and that's again where facts are your friends. As long as you know, hey,
Uh-huh.
yeah, that 8 place, table was not going to work here. And it's okay for your parents to be sad about it, but also, you can feel blameless in that, the measuring tape doesn't lie. This was not going
Yes.
to work in any way, shape, or form. Uh, for photo albums, if there's a bookshelf that those can go on, that's obviously, they're probably going to want to take some books and things with them. But if there's a place for them, I think that's the one thing that's like, nope, you get to keep the photo albums you want. Now, I mean, if you were into, what was that? No, something creative memories. Is that what it was called? Somebody will correct me.
Yes,
Um,
there was a creative memories.
yeah, and I mean, they had, people had full photo albums for the first tooth or the
Yeah,
second tooth, that came out, and so,
that's a lot.
uh, if yeah, it's too much, but, uh, there are also ways you could scan some of those things, if, uh it's so funny, we got my mom one of those digital frames, do you know what I'm talking about?
Yes,
Where
mine has
the
one too.
Okay, but you know what my mom does? She doesn't wanna waste electricity, so she turns it off. Yeah,
I
so
don't
I
think it's
thought it
gonna
was a
take
really
that.
clever solution. My daughter got it for her for Christmas. What are you gonna do, right? What
Wow.
about large collections? Like my dad was a stamp collector, and you think, oh, well, that's not too. He literally had a room full of stamps.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
y-
My dad was a pastor,
Mhm.
and so he had large book collections
Yep.
and files and files and files. Um, so we designed a study for him even though he wasn't pastoring
Right.
anymore, he wasn't capable of it. And so he had his own room. So we were able to fit most books in there. And then because he mentored so many people, they were able to have other men who had become pastors or teachers or whatever come in
Oh,
and select different books that they would like to keep.
I love
And
that.
so
Yeah, so
that
he could
really made
continue
them
with his
feel. Yeah.
Yeah, he could continue with his passion, but it
Uh-huh.
just took on a different form. He
Uh-huh.
wasn't preparing sermons anymore, but he was a resource to those who were. Oh,
Yes.
I love that idea. Yeah,
Yeah.
you think about that with almost any hobby. Is there somebody who would appreciate some of these things?
Mhm.
Is there somebody, the things that maybe, you used to collect every stamp in the world, but now you're focusing on Japanese and, Argentinian stamps. Those are your
Right.
so other people can get their one of the things I love, okay, you're gonna think I'm a wacko. Ruthie and I are both on TikTok, and so, I cross over her videos every single day. But one of the genres of videos I absolutely love, this is so weird, is Pokemon convention videos. Now hear me out. Hear me out. No, I do not collect Pokemon cards. I've never played Pokemon Go,
Oh, man.
but what so these vendors will set up and they'll be live streaming on YouTube and these little kids will come up and they're just, this is their first convention and they're excited to get started and people will hear them and come running over from other booths and give them stacks of cards.
Oh, wow.
They're the cards that they don't need for their own collection anymore. They're not the, $10,000 cards because I guess there are some of those. But they're saying, "Hey, we can help you get started in this passion." And it makes these guys feel good. And then some people in the audience will donate money so this kid can get a card. And it's just the most wholesome thing you've ever seen in your entire
Oh,
life. But
that's cool.
if we can go into and let's also think about it for ourselves because, Ruthie, you and I, we're a long way from all of this, but we're not. These are things that we have to start thinking
Mhm.
about, right? Because I
Right.
don't want to burden my kids with,
Same.
having fist fights over that candy dish. That's not how I want to go into my later years. So,
Mhm.
how can we start investing in other people with our own abundance? When we moved from one house to another, we moved up here to the mountain and we pretty much had everything we needed. We put an ad on, I think it was Free Cycle or maybe it was Facebook Marketplace, and this young couple, they had just been married the week before and they had nothing. And Ruthie, we were able to furnish their entire apartment. And
Oh, that's
yes,
so
there's things we could
cool.
have sold. There were things, yeah, blah, blah, blah. My kids had already taken what they wanted, but we had things that, my kids didn't have a place for the patio set. And so we were able to do this. And if we can think about our possessions as, as gifts that we can
Right.
give to
Yeah,
others.
something we can bless with others. I know my husband does that a lot. He's like, "Look, we're not gonna use this TV anymore. Let's
Hmm.
just ask one of our kids, do they want it or do they have a friend?" I had this we
Right.
have one of our daughters, our oldest, she is the market queen. She can sell anything to
Oh,
anybody,
such a
and she
gift.
just, I don't know, man. She's got it, and so we'll say, "Okay, if nobody will take this, just put it on Facebook. You can have the money. Just get it out of our house."
Right. Yeah, find that friend who can do
Yes.
those things. Yes, absolutely. Um, what do we need to know as we're wrapping up? If you've had one parent who has passed, that adds a whole nother layer of emotion. My dad passed away a little over 10 years ago. And he was a hoarder. So there
Mm,
there was another whole layer to all of this. But when, my mom never got rid of anything while he was alive that was his, but the day he passed, she started gathering things up, and it was because she was finally set free. I don't know that everybody has that same emotion. You wanna
mhm.
hold on to things. How when do you encourage the widow or widower to start going through stuff, and when do you let it lie? I don't know the answer to this question.
Okay. Well, the good news about my mom, and my dad passed in 2020. The good news about her was she didn't have enough space in her closet, so she was ready to get rid of his clothes,
Mm,
but she
yeah,
found like, mom and dad were always about finding a good home for everything. They felt better
right.
if they found a good home, so she was able to donate those to a safe house that our church
Mm,
supports. And so she did that, and she was fine with that. But as far as his possessions and his mementos, they're all still in that office of his,
okay.
and
Yeah.
she goes in there and sits a lot, and, I'm not touching any of that except
No.
that she did call. Well, there was so many people that we were in touch with after he passed that were giving condolences, that she was able to say personally one on one, "Hey, you want to come and look at Steve's books and maybe
Yeah.
pick some more out," you know? And
Yes.
so that was helpful. She did that. But as far as the rest of everything that's in there, it's going to stay that way until she passes. You've got
Yeah,
to
when
be sensitive to that kind of stuff.
yes, absolutely, because they feel that it's throwing away the person oftentimes. But,
Uh-huh.
Roger's stepdad was a pastor and had a huge collection, and each
Uh-huh.
one of us went and grabbed a book, that was meaningful to us. I think, some people, grabbed a book that wasn't meaningful to them necessarily, the title, the reading, but it was a part of Dean, and that was great.
Mhm.
Friends, I'm going to take the best ideas, the best tips from this, and we're going to put those into a tip sheet, and that's going to be a part of our newsletter along with this episode. So you make sure that you're part of our newsletter so that you can start receiving these tip sheets as you're trying to tackle this up. Ruthie, what are some other resources? Do you have any other resources that you can point us to? Whether it's about uh, managing household stuff or just managing that relationship with your parents as you're going through this.
Mhm. Well, one resource that is a really good one is my podcast, which is Sandwich
Yeah.
Season Sanity.
Yes.
And it's an interview podcast where I have caregivers who have either already walked through it or are walking through it right now. Many of them have already done that. And so that you get the different stories from the different experiences and the different
Mm,
things that they went through. So you are likely to find something there that will resonate with you, that will help you. So that's the first resource that I recommend. Other resources, though, that I recommend are you need help. So get help, get a
mhm.
friend maybe to help you sort through things. If you are at that point that they wouldn't be emotionally attached,
Right.
get a friend, and people who have been there before you that you could just talk to and pick their
Yeah.
brains,
Mhm.
because that you need
Right.
that support. And then other things are, if you're even just looking at getting your parent out or into a program, look at the resources available to you. Like there's Meals on Wheels, and
Right.
there are senior centers that have programs. And so the more you get involved in those kind of things, the more resources that you'll find and ideas you'll find.
I love that so much. Yeah, it's we often don't know all the things that are available. So yes, finding a friend who has been through this and can say, "Have you looked at this? Have you thought about this?" Also, social workers often know about resources. I know one thing that our county does is that they have extra garbage days for some seniors, and, that's a
Oh,
valuable
I love that.
resource. Yeah.
Mhm.
So, find out what those resources are and how they can be a support to you. Ruthie, this is so great. Guys, Ruthie's podcast is Sandwich Season Sanity, and we will have a link for that in our show notes. So if you are dealing with aging parents or you're going to be, start listening now so you can have that cheat sheet on what to do and how to support them. And Ruthie, we will have you back because there are other topics I want to talk to you about with this. Friends,
Sounds wonderful.
you've been listening to Clutter Free Academy. I'm Kathi Lip. Now, go create the clutter free life you've always wanted to live.